On the evening of April 14th, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln attended a performance of the play Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., unaware that he was about to become the target of a violent assassination. This night, which was meant to mark the end of the Civil War and signal the beginning of national healing, would instead mark the end of Lincoln's life and leave the nation in shock and despair. The assassination, carried out by John Wilkes Booth, a well-known actor and Confederate sympathizer, was both sudden and tragic, shaking the nation to its core. Booth, driven by deep resentment over the Confederacy's defeat and Lincoln's policies, carefully plotted the murder. His plan wasn't just to kill Lincoln, but to disrupt the Union government, believing that his act would spark chaos and even reignite the Confederate cause. As Lincoln sat in his presidential box, surrounded by his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, and their guests, Booth slipped into the box unnoticed, approached Lincoln from behind, and fired a single shot into the back of his head. At first, the audience didn't realize what had happened, mistaking the gunshot for part of the play. However, as panic and chaos ensued, it became clear that something far more sinister had unfolded. Booth's escape, however, was even more bizarre than the assassination itself. After shooting Lincoln, Booth leaped from the balcony, but in his haste, he misjudged the jump, breaking his leg upon landing on the stage. Still determined, he limped off the stage and fled into the night, leaving a stunned and horrified audience in his wake. He believed that his swift escape would lead to freedom and political upheaval, but the reality of his actions began to unravel as the authorities quickly mounted a nationwide manhunt for the assassin. Meanwhile, Lincoln, gravely wounded, was rushed across the street to the Peterson boarding house where doctors worked desperately to save him, but it was too late. The president's injuries were fatal, and despite efforts to revive him, Lincoln passed away at 7:22 a.m. On April 15th, 1865, just hours after the shooting, the nation, already weary from the prolonged Civil War, was now faced with the tragic loss of the man who had led it through its darkest days. The news of Lincoln's death spread quickly, leaving Americans in a collective state of grief and disbelief.